Let's talk to Andrew Bridgen, Conservative MP for North West Leicestershire, because he was opining last night when only 2 people had disappeared out of the Downing Street staff. We've now got 5 people disappearing, that it certainly looked a bit like a crisis. Andrew, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Mike.
It's a very worrying time, I would have thought, if you're a Conservative MP, because, I mean, you and I have been speaking about the possibility of Boris Johnson being removed now for, probably a couple of weeks. It seems to be kind of dragging...
For about 3 weeks.
Well, about 3 weeks, yeah. I mean, it seems to have been dragging for a while. He appears to have sort of dodged the bullet for the time being. But what is going on? Because it seems to me as though somebody needs to bring all of this to an end, and I don't see anybody with a mind to do that.
Well, I think when you've got polling of showing, I think 3 different polls out on Tuesday, showing 63%, 65% and 69% of the public think the Prime Minister should resign. I mean, that's pretty untenable. You've got, if it's not a meltdown, it's certainly chaotic at number 10. And you've got a lot of people jumping before they're pushed. How many of those will have to be interviewed or would have to be interviewed regarding the 12 so-called gatherings that the Met are looking at, I think it would be of interest. And ultimately, I think we're getting to the point now where the Cabinet need to go and see the Prime Minister and explain that the game's up. The writing's been on the wall in capital letters for quite a while. And my message to the Cabinet would be, you know, leaders don't run away from problems. They have to confront them. And if any of them are thinking that they might be a future Prime Minister and leader of the great Conservative Party, if they don't show leadership now, don't bother coming to canvass me.
No, quite. But of course, the trouble is, so many people in the Tory party, and we've seen this before, are waiting for their moment, aren't they? And they sort of don't seem to give a stuff about the electorate. They don't seem to care about the public. The fact that we've got a government which is apparently spinning with wheels going really nowhere, treading water, not really able to do anything, because it's kind of paralysed by all of this. You'd think somebody in the Cabinet would break ranks and just come out and say, we should do this.
Well, the longer this goes on, by association and of not acting, the whole of the Parliamentary Conservative Party and the Conservative Party in the country becomes complicit in opposing the will of the people. And that's never going to end well. Ultimately, we're all elected and we're all accountable. And if that's not till the next general election, then we'll see what happens, quite honestly. And it won't be good. So there will be culpability by inaction, I think.
Yes.
People know what they've got to do. They just need to summon the courage, stir the spirits, and get on with it.
And also,
we just can't carry on like.
And also, yeah, take a look around at the sort of what is actually going on out there. You know, see what the public is saying, see what the economy is looking like, see how there's a crisis looming financially for the entire country. Cost of living rising, going through the roof. You know, petrol prices going up, energy prices going up. Interest rates going up. You know, this is a perfect storm, really. And so what you need...
Well, the energy situation, I mean, we haven't had a credible energy policy in this country. That's all long-term planning, and they're the questions that politicians of all colours have dodged for decades. But, I mean, when we adopted the Labour policy of the energy price cap, I mean, that was just doomed to disaster. And we're reaping that reward now.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are making comparisons, Andrew, to the Tory party of the sort of late 90s, just before Tony Blair got in, that there was a great deal of complacency. You know, there was a belief that nothing could possibly go wrong, that maybe they didn't need to do anything and they would just win the election. And then suddenly it was all reversed. And as much as Sir Keir Starmer is a pretty hopeless campaigner and a pretty boring man, the longer I think Boris Johnson stays in position, the more chance he's got.
Yes, because we'll all be contaminated by what Boris has done.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, you know, I had huge policy disagreements with Theresa May when she was Prime Minister over Brexit. But I never for one moment questioned her integrity and her loyalty to the Conservative Party, and I never would. Now, between her administration and what we've got now, we've had Boris in as Prime Minister, and the culture has changed in number 10 so drastically, because I do not believe for 1 minute that if Theresa May had been in number 10, we would have been having these reports of parties and rule breaking that we've seen under Boris. And for me, that just shows you that Boris can get rid of all the staff in number 10, but ultimately he recruited them. And ultimately, the leader of any organisation is responsible for the culture. And that culture has changed under his leadership.
Unquestionably. And certainly by getting rid of 5 people, that's not going to change the culture anymore. I mean, he himself said that there was thousands of people working in the department of the Prime Minister, as it now is. And you'd have to say, and I'm not going to be accused of sexism anymore because 2 female columnists have written this very thing. You've got to lay some of the blame, surely, at Carrie Johnson, who seems to have taken it upon herself to create a kind of medieval court-type atmosphere where only friends of hers and friends of his are allowed into the inner circle and they can do whatever they like. And
that's how you end up in a situation where you're completely insulated and immune to what the real people out there are thinking. That doesn't lead to good politics, doesn't lead to good policy, and it's basically unhealthy to have people who aren't elected and aren't accountable at the ballot box holding that much power.
No, quite. And what are you hearing from your constituents, Andrew? Because, you and I spoke when you put your letter of no confidence in to the 1922 committee, and you've done that in previous occasions and successfully done it, shall we say. What are your constituents telling you?
I've got some people who are completely loyal to the Prime Minister, say they'll never vote for me again. But I would say that my inbox is about 80% supportive of my position in a seat which voted Conservative by 63% of the electorate at the last election. There's nothing you can do that pleases everyone. I would hope that if we can get a new leader in, that those people who didn't want to see Boris go will make a considered choice at the next election and decide to vote Conservative.
Yes,
but I don't see that putting off something which is pretty unpalatable. 6, 7, 8 weeks of uncertainty while we get a new leader. From where we are now, I don't think enough of the electorate will forgive and forget what's gone on at number 10 if Boris remains in position and we go with him into the next general election. That's my take on it, Mike. I could be completely wrong.
Well, you could be, but in the end, also, you have chosen a path to go down, whereas so many of your colleagues have not chosen any path. They're still standing at the crossroads deciding what to do. And that isn't really where we need to be right now. Because watching Rishi Sunak yesterday in the House, I was absolutely baffled by this kind of economic policy that because people can't afford to pay for something, he's going to give them some of their own money back, which supposedly is going to help. Well, 1, it's not going to help. 2, all it's going to do is allow the energy companies to get even richer. And 3, energy prices are still going up, and we're apparently now subsidising them. So I don't understand why something else is not doable.
Well, we need to start governing as a Conservative Party, but we were elected as a Conservative Party with a massive majority. We appear to be doing lots of things that weren't in our manifesto. I would scrap the national insurance increase. That's a tax on jobs. And I am flattered that I tweeted out about 4 or 5 weeks ago that it was the wrong tax at the wrong time. And that's now apparently the Labour Party's attack line. So,
well, hopefully,
they're not even original. They're not even original.
as long as you're not going to follow old Weasel Wakeford over the line, that's fine.
Certainly not. I'm a great believer in anyone who is elected for a party and then defects. They should have a by-election.
Well, he's a great believer. He's a great believer.
Betrayal of the public.
Yes,
if we do that.
Well, he's a big believer in that as well. So I'm just waiting for him to announce when the date is.
He tried to bring in a bill to deliver that mandate. I imagine he wouldn't want to talk about it now. But I guess the good people of Bury South might want to talk about it.
Well, you might think so. So, Andrew, any more sort of surprises? I know it's always difficult to predict surprises, but any more surprises coming over the weekend from Downing Street, do you think? Is there anybody left in there to come out?
Well, I think now is the time for the Cabinet to go and see the Prime Minister and explain that they can't keep going out and defending this. I think we probably, I keep saying this every week, I'm hoping we're going to get to 54 letters. I think that would then trigger whatever anyone's, I'm thinking of Dominic Cummings, has still got in his arsenal. He'll unload all of that and get all that out at once. I mean, the question is, with all these people leaving Number 10, Mike, under a cloud, disgruntled former employees, I mean, we wouldn't have known anything about Partygate if it hadn't been for a disgruntled former employee. So surely this is only exacerbating the problem, and the chances that they might want to get their side of the story out in the Sunday papers, this is going to go on again. And I just see it's no end to it. No. It's paralysing the Prime Minister, it's paralysing the government. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to serve the people, not for every lever of government to be employed 24 hours a day trying to defend the Prime Minister's position.
No.
That's not good government.
No, you're absolutely right. Andrew, great to talk to you. Thank you very much.